Hello, I'm Tripwire, and welcome to a brand new series that I haven't come up with a name for at the time of recording. I should have done that before I hit the start recording button, but I didn't. Welcome. I hope you enjoy this series. I don't know if this is a series I'll even follow through with. I've been known to not follow through with series, like my Borderlands 2 series. I just kind of burnt out on. This one I don't think I will. Borderlands 2 is a game that kind of necessitates multiple playthroughs with the Vault Hunter modes. Dark Souls, the Souls games obviously have New Game Plus and Plus Plus, and you can play through them as many times as you want, but I think I can accomplish all the goals of what I wanted to show in a single playthrough. And when you know what you're doing in these games, it really doesn't take that long. But I just wanted to show off this game in this, I'm going to call it like a slow play. You know, it's like a let's play. It's like far from a speedrun. Obviously, I can get through the game really quickly if I'm trying, because I've played through it so many times. But this is going to be a slow play because I really want to show off the game and the things you can do and what it has to offer and why it's so great to those who may not have played it. So it's going to be like a slow play of Dark Souls. And it's also going to include helpful tips for anybody who's struggling, trying it for the first time. I'm going to show a lot of the best ways to handle certain bosses and just certain tips and tricks, and maybe talk about the lore here and there. There are better resources than me for lore, so I'm not going to go too heavy into that, but I love this game. This is my second favorite game of all time, second only to RuneScape, and I have to rank RuneScape first because I've played that game probably for more hours in my life than every other video game I've ever played combined, probably. So I like to play in offline mode. That means that you're not going to see the messages on the ground that players have left for you. You'll only see developer messages on the ground. But it also means you won't be invaded by enemy players. You can set the game to boot in offline mode if you're playing on the remaster, and this will prevent you from being invaded. And if you're a first-time player and you are already struggling, that can be very helpful to play offline. You can also run Steam in offline mode and just boot the game up like that. So, I have a lot of characters. Please ignore how immature I am in naming said characters. Particularly Captain Schlong. I don't remember making that character. Daniel DeVito. I have one free character slot. I have played this game a lot. This is the first character I ever made. 44 hours it took me to beat the game on my first try. These other characters, 9.5 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours. These ones are most of the way through the game. Like, I can get through the game in under 6 hours these days if I'm really trying. This one's got 13 because I've been trying to... I wanted to do some things I had never done before or I hadn't done in a long time, like the DLC, and just kind of take it slow. And then I was like, well, I finished up that playthrough and I'm still itching to keep playing Dark Souls 1, so I think I want to try maybe recording some of it. I know a lot about the game, I really enjoy the game, and I think there are many people out there that would also enjoy it, but haven't really given it a proper chance, or they've rage quit at some point. So anyway, we're going to start a new... Actually, hang on. First, I needed to turn up the game sounds, sorry. There we go. I have it quiet, because usually I've played so much, I usually have multitasking. And I got like a YouTube video running, but this is the volume it probably should be at. So we're going to make a new character. This game kicks you immediately into a character creation screen before the opening cutscene. Let's pick a name. Dark Souls, perfect name. Alright. Male. So we'll get to these two afterwards, because again, this is going to be an informational playthrough. Physique is going to be average. These don't matter at all. It's purely cosmetic, I believe. I don't think it actually affects your hitbox any, so if you want to have a tiny head, you can. I always go average. For face, I like to go, and it's kind of misleading. Face equals the character, like where your character comes from in a lot of these instances. Far East, from the Great Swamp, from Kareem, from Katarina, Thurland, these are all locations, Astora. I like to go Jubilant Katarina every time. He just looks so happy. Look at him. How can you say no to that smile? I always like to go with long hair and make it purple because I don't know, why not? And then before you can accept and get into the game, you have to choose a class and a gift. The class, I mean, it's an RPG, so the class is what you'd expect: Warrior, Knight, Wanderer, Thief, Bandit, Hunter, Sorcerer, Pyromancer, Cleric, and Deprived. Deprived is the meme build. You get nothing except for a thong, a club, and a plank shield. Unclothed Enigma, only armed with club and old plank shield. So each of these, as you can see on the left there, the bottom left, they're going to have different starting stats and a different starting level. And, excuse me, the way that leveling up works in this game is that leveling any of your stats requires a certain amount of souls, souls being the currency, and every time you level up, that number increases. So it doesn't matter how many times you've leveled up. Like, say I leveled up to a stat, like a stat all the way to 40, and then I wanted to level up, attunement here, which is 8. I wanted to bring attunement from 8 to 9. It's going to cost a shit ton of souls to get it from 8 to 9, because it'll cost the same as it would for getting one of my stats from 40 to 41. So every single level costs more, and it doesn't matter which stat you're leveling up. And if you want to start at the base level and have the most flexibility in your leveling up, you should go Pyromancer, because he starts at level 1. He's the only class that starts at level 1. Deprived starts at level 6, which is terrible, and all the stats are the same, and you have the least equipment. So Deprived, I don't really know that there's any valid reason to start with this class, except for because you want to challenge yourself or because it's funny. The rest of them have reasons, and there's some information underneath. Fearless Warrior, Weapon Expert, High Strength, and Dexterity. So your Strength and Dex are 13. And he's level 4 to start with. Knight starts at level 5. He's got pretty cool looking armor. Low ranking Knight, high HP, so he's got 14 vitality, lower strength and dex. Solid armor, not easily toppled. Not easily toppled to a new player is meaningless, but there is a stat in this game called Poise, and that affects how much damage you can take before you stagger. And so armor affects poise significantly. So this character is going to have more poise than this one. Wanderer uses a curved sword or scimitar. He's got high dexterity because smaller weapons that require you to be more adroit with them are going to be dex weapons in this game, whereas big beefy boys like a great sword or huge hammers or whatnot are going to be strength weapons. There are also weapons that kind of fall in the middle, and we call those quality weapons. A quality build refers to if you're doing equal parts or roughly equal parts strength and dex. So this guy has a scimitar. The thief has a bandit's knife, which is very short range, but it attacks quickly and says high critical hits. I believe it might also be, I think that one can inflict bleed, but I'm not sure. Very important thing about this character is has Master Key. That means that if you want the Master Key as your starting gift, you don't have to choose it in the gift slot if you go for a thief, because the thief has it by default, and then you can choose a different gift. Bandit, Battle Axe, Hunter, this stuff. Okay at close range, but weak with magic. I don't know why. Also, it says bow-wielding Hunter. So he does start with a bow, which means you don't have to buy one if you're a hunter, which is nice, and some arrows. But I don't know why he says weak with magic, because he's got 9 intelligence and 9 faith, which are the magic stats, and the warrior also has 9 of each of those, but he's not necessarily referred to as being weak at magic. The knight has also 9 intelligence. I don't know. It's kind of weird that they... I think they were just struggling to come up with things to say about him. The sorcerer has 15 intelligence, because sorceries require intelligence as your magic stat. Little tiny dagger, little buckler, kind of goofy apparel. Sorceries, I think, are probably the thing you want to go for the least, especially if you're a new player, just because sorceries don't really get strong and useful until the sequels, is what I've been told. Pyromancer, again, starts at level 1, which means you have the most flexibility with building your character. Has kind of decent overall stats. He also starts with the Pyromancer's Flame, which you can see, it's very small in the middle there, but so he'll start with that, and you'll start with the Pyromancy Fireball equipped, which is actually pretty good damage early game, and then Cleric, has high faith because faith is the magic stat required for casting miracles. So I think we're going to go with the Pyromancer. And the gift, I'm going to go with the Master Key, 100%. Master Key is an amazing starting gift. And so other gifts, this is a consumable. It's going to be gone when you use it. These are consumables, gone, consumables. Binoculars you can get as a drop on the ground really, really early in the game, if you know where to look. I don't know why you'd choose that. Trinket, no effect, but fond memories comfort travelers. The pendant, I don't know why you'd choose that either. Tiny Being's Ring grants small increase to HP. It is going to be very small. And the Old Witch's Ring is useful for talking to a specific NPC a little ways into the game. So if you're going for lore, plot kind of stuff, if you really get into that kind of thing, this could be useful at some point, like once. The Master Key opens any basic lock. Amazing gift. It's very helpful. It unlocks some really bitchin' shortcuts. I'm going to shut up now and let the opening cutscene play for those of you that care about the story.
The world was unformed, shrouded by fog. A land of grey crags, arch trees, and everlasting dragons. But then there was fire. And with fire came disparity. Heat and cold, life and death, and of course, light and dark. Then from the dark they came and found the souls of lords within the flame. Nito, the first of the dead. The Witch of Izalith and her daughters of Chaos. Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, and his faithful knights. And the furtive pygmy, so easily forgotten. With the strength of lords, they challenged the dragons. Gwyn's mighty bolts peeled apart their stone scales. The witches weaved great firestorms. Nito unleashed a miasma of death and disease. And Seath the Scaleless betrayed his own, and the dragons were no more. Thus began the Age of Fire. But soon the flames will fade, and only dark will remain. Even now, there are only embers. And man sees not light, but only endless nights. And amongst the living are seen carriers of the accursed dark side.
You remember all that? Because there's going to be a quiz at the end of this episode. And here, obviously you can tell it's no longer a pre-rendered cutscene. This is in-game footage.
Indeed.
Shut up, lady.
The dark sign brands the undead. And in this land, the undead are corralled and led to the north. Where they are locked away to await the end of the world. This is your fate.
Look, there's me. In a jail cell. In the undead asylum. Now that, man, is an important character. He was initially going to be a more important character or play a slightly different role. In the final release of the game, he is a nameless knight, but in the cut content, he's called Oscar, so everybody calls him Oscar. And he just dropped us this key, which is the only way we're going to get out, obviously. Undead get locked in this asylum because obviously they cannot die, so you lock them away, because you can't kill them, they'll just come back. Again, I said these messages you'll see on the ground, you're not going to see ones from other players. I'm playing offline, but these are the developer messages. So this is the tutorial zone, basically. Hey, look, I can move my camera with right controls or right thumbstick. I can attack with right bumper. I can do a stronger attack with the right trigger. It says dash. That's sprint. I'm doing sprinting here. I don't know why it says dash. You can also hear the footsteps of something, and oh, look, there's a large demon. That is a boss we will come back to fight in the future. And so it tells you can attack right away. You can attack these guys if you want to. These are what's known as hollows. And you can see the weird growth on their chest, symbolizing their status of undead. And according to lore, we were probably all imprisoned here for the quote-unquote crime of being undead. The dark sign brands the undead, and being undead is you're a cursed being, and people don't like that very much, and they'll punish you for it. We start with a straight sword hilt, and as you might remember, if you were paying attention, it's not the item we chose. We actually get our legitimate gear a little bit later in the tutorial section, but you always start with a straight sword hilt in your hand on New Game, and it's bad. It does 20 base damage, and it's bad. It's not a real weapon. We're going to replace it real soon. Obviously, it's telling you, hey, you can attack these if you want. 13 damage. These guys won't even fight back. They'll just look at you. Hollows are what happen when a person who is undead loses their sanity. You become hollow. This is also the targeting feature. You click in the right stick, it targets. Very, very useful. If you're a new player and you find that you're missing your swings a lot, it's probably because you don't know about targeting. I learned about targeting too early, before I was any good at the game, and then I forgot about the fact that targeting existed for like a long time. I didn't really make use of it. So, oh, hey, look, there it is. Target. There's another one of these passive hollows in the water. You can also see right off that if the water's deep enough, it's going to restrict your movement. Let's keep moving, though. Also, if you're interested at all in the story, in the lore of these games, highly recommend checking out Rest of Bonfire, Recover HP. Everybody kind of already knows that. I highly recommend checking out some lore videos once you've gotten into the game. Obviously, an overdose of information about these games is useless without some context, so start playing the game, get a ways into it, and then if you are enjoying yourself, check out some of the lore, because the lore of these worlds is super, super deep, way, way beyond the scope of what's happening in the actual plot. And it is excellent and enrapturing if you enjoy these games at all. So we're going to light our first bonfire. Has what appears to be a sword or a coiled fire poker sticking out of it. It's confirmed in Dark Souls 3 to actually be a weapon called the coiled sword. But prior to Dark Souls 3, we weren't sure if it was just like a fire implement. And so right off the bat here, we can't really go anywhere. We came from that doorway. That gate over there is locked, so we'll go forward. Also, a huge shout out to Rob, one of my best friends, aka Vorpal Tongues. He gifted me the Dark Souls Remaster on Steam, and he's the reason I love these games so much. I had never given them a proper try before because I also tried it back when it was free on Xbox 360, and I rage quit. I mean, as you're wont to do. They're frustrating games, but God, are they so worth sticking with, honestly. One of the best games of all time. It has masterful map design. Great story, great lore. It's just also really satisfying to progress in a hard game, you know, and it's very nuanced. The game's a lot deeper than you'd think it would be. Also, can we not see it? Hang on, if I back up. There we go. Look at it. Look at that demon up there. He sure is ready to give us a spook, huh? But if you don't think that this is one of my favorite games of all time, I'm going to put up a photo on the screen right now of my left arm. Because I have an awesome Dark Souls tattoo. So, this guy's going to drop down. We don't want to fight him yet. So you notice that this gate on the left opens, and we're going to take it. We're going to leave. We're going to get the fuck out of here. We have a straight sword hilt. We don't have a real weapon. We can't be fighting a big old demon with a thick ass right now. Nope. Immediately they give us another bonfire. This is just so that if you die in the upcoming section, you can respawn here and not back at the first bonfire. Get your shield. I actually don't remember this message existing. So this little hallway, if you couldn't guess, is where we're going to pick up our proper items. There's a cracked round shield, which is what you start with as a pyromancer. Or tutorial shit. And then we've got our first enemy that isn't a boss. You're supposed to run past to start with. Arrows in this game have a decent amount of tracking, but if you know the timing, you can just get right by them. And so, I guess I should talk about a couple other things. If you press start, you'll notice the game doesn't pause because it's a Souls game, and Souls games are not known for being super easy or super forgiving. The Souls games tend to be very fair, like they're tough but fair. You just gotta adjust your expectations. You gotta realize that dying is fine and it's gonna happen. And you got to remember that you're dealing with a dev that is good at what they do, so be careful. Game doesn't pause. Press start. Here are your options. This is configure. This is where you quit and shit. These are your player stats. Here's my name, Dark Souls. And you're going to notice that their menus are clunky because this game is from 2011, and their games in general are just always clunky looking. I was going to say, I think I can hear the footsteps of this asshole coming down to interrupt my informational talk. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. You're a dick. Please, just stay there. Okay. So anyway, here's the stats. There's a lot of stuff here. It's overwhelming for a new player. But what you can do, if you'll notice at the bottom, if I press the select button on my controller, it says explanation. Sorry. There you go. Character's name. I'm not part of a covenant right now. We'll get to that later. What my level is, how many souls I have, that's the currency. And then this tells you what these stats do. Determines HP, number of attunement slots, that is for spellcasters. Determines stamina, equipment load, and resistance to bleed. Parameter required to wield powerful weapons, boosts weapon attack. Advanced weapons also boost weapon attack. Your resistance to poison and boosting defense. Intelligence for sorceries, and faith is for miracles. Humanity is, I guess you could call it another currency. It's a consumable, but it's also a very complicated thing to explain because it's significant in the story and in the lore. And it all comes back to the idea of the Dark Soul. In that opening cutscene, it talks about, from the dark they came and found the souls of lords within the flame. The furtive pygmy is the final quote-unquote lord mentioned, or one of the creatures that found the souls of lords within the flame. The furtive pygmy is the predecessor to humans in this world. We are descendants of the furtive pygmy. The furtive pygmy found the Dark Soul, whereas some of those other characters mentioned found other great souls, or lord souls. And humanity is, it says, number of black sprites within one's bosom. They're fragments of the dark soul. Symbolizes human nature and determines item discovery and resistance to curses. So, speaking of which, item discovery. The skill for discovering items on the corpse of a fallen enemy. This basically affects drop rate. The drop rates of items in this game are static. You don't modify the drop rates, you modify your likelihood to find them based on your own stat, which is item discovery. Then we've got our HP, our stamina, our equip load. The percentage you're at of your equip load determines how quickly you dodge roll and how quickly you move. And then here are the stats for what kind of damage we're outputting based on our current stats and blah, blah, blah. There's the poise I mentioned before. Ability to receive attacks without breaking form, basically stagger. So on any of these menus, you can press select or whatever the equivalent is on your controller, and it'll give you a little bit of information about each of these things. Also, don't recommend playing these games, any of the FromSoft games, on mouse and keyboard. They're meant to be played on controllers. Then we've got our equipment screen. We've got the right-hand slots, the left-hand slots. We're gonna get rid of this thing. It's terrible. Unequip it. And then here are our options. Get our hand axe. On the left hand, we're gonna put our cracked round shield. And then, just so you guys can see how this works, because it's not super intuitive. Oh, he's back to his starting position. That's interesting. This is how this works. So, in the bottom left, you see my equipment. I can press left on the D-pad and swap between the two things I've placed in those slots. That's how that works. And I can press right on the D-pad to just swap to empty hand, because there is no backup item equipped in the right hand. So that's how those work. We have no rings, we have no ammo, and yeah. And then on the bottom, you get consumable items. Estus flask, other stuff is going to go here. And then, of course, we got armor. And then the final section here, next to equipment, is inventory. Inventory is category. You got different categories here. So basically, you've got just general things and consumables and stuff. This is going to be upgrade materials, key items, spells, aka anything that is a pyromancy. Sorry. It's 1 in the morning. I'm tired. I just finished my first week at a new job. Pyromancies, sorceries, and miracles will all go in this list. This includes everything they consider a weapon, which is any kind of regular weapon, any kind of bow, any kind of shield. Everything will go into this section. Ammunition for those weapons, and then armor is a section on its own, and then rings. Sorry, this game has a lot of depth, and I remember being a new player, and I was over-fucking-whelmed by it, and I don't know. When I first started playing, I was like, should I be playing this blind? Should I ask for help? It's a tough decision at first. And these games, there's no shame in asking for help. Hence the online mechanic of sharing information by leaving notes on the ground. Like, it was expected and meant to be that way from the beginning of the game's design. Ask your friends for help, look at the wiki, do what you need to do to make this game enjoyable for you, because this game is wonderful, and it should be experienced by anybody. You shouldn't be restricted from playing just because you can't get through because you don't know what a boss is weak to, or you don't know this cool strategy that's not even a glitch, it's intended. You know, like, that information is going to help your experience immensely, and you're going to have the confidence to persevere until you realize why this game is so wonderful and why everybody loves it, and why I got a tattoo of it. Like, there's a lot of good reasons for it. It's a masterpiece. So here we have our first mean Dark Souls trick. What do you see at the top of that staircase? Looks like a big old ball to me. Yeah, don't get fooled by that. Knocks down the wall behind you. Very important, because hey, look, it's our good buddy Oscar.
Oh, you're no hollow. Thank goodness. I'm done for, I'm afraid. I'll die soon, then lose my sanity. I wish to ask something of you. You and I, we're both undead. Hear me out, will you?
You guys can make your own decisions here. I'm gonna say yes.
Regrettably, I have failed in my mission. But perhaps you can keep the torch lit. There is an old saying in my family. Thou who art undead art chosen, and thine exodus from the undead asylum maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords. When thou ringeth the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know. Well, now you know. And I can die with hope in my heart. Oh, one more thing. Here, take this. An Estus flask. An undead favorite.
Ah, delicious Estus. So this is our main healing item.
Oh, and this.
And there is a key.
Now I must bid farewell. I would hate to harm you after death. So go now, and thank you.
Cool, so he just gave us some really important items, mainly the Estus. And he also said something interesting, which is that he's going to die and then lose his sanity, which means he's aware that hollowing is the natural order of things in this world, and he doesn't want to hurt us, so he tells us to leave, so that after he dies and loses his sanity and goes hollow, he doesn't injure us. And as we walk away... Oh, actually, before I say that, can I just point out, he's like, oh, in my family we have this saying, and it's like a full fucking paragraph of crazy shit, and it's like, that was a family saying? You guys, you heard that growing up? What the fuck are you talking about, man? Yeah, it's an important piece of the story, an important bit of the lore. Excuse me. If you're undead, you may be destined to, or compelled to, make a pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords, aka Lordron, which is where we're going after the tutorial is done. And, yeah. So basically, that character is there to set you free and kind of set you on your course. And if you walk away, yeah, you hear that noise? We can actually hear him die, and we get 100 souls for his death. It's interesting, because he says, I'm going to die soon, I'm finished. Then it sounded like he slit his own throat or something, like, right? Isn't that weird? Also, the key he gave us goes to this door. I lied. No, it doesn't. I remember where it goes. What the fuck am I talking about? It goes to this door, so we can progress. I don't know. Here's one of the first enemies we actually have to deal with. Also, if you press Y, you can toggle between wielding modes, two-handed, one-handed. You'll just automatically put your shield on your back. You're going to do more damage. With the two-handed stance, I believe as long as the weapon you're using has some kind of strength scaling. Otherwise, I don't believe it matters. And then if you have the shield out and you hold left bumper or by L1, you're going to raise your shield and block. Trigger, or L2, is parry. If you get the timing right, you'll parry somebody's attack. It'll knock them off balance, and you can riposte them for really good damage. And then here is our Pyromancy Flame. If you've got like a bonus item for the character class that you picked, it'll be right here instead of in that hallway. So we got a couple more hollows to deal with, and we're almost on to the tutorial boss. So we are going to equip our Pyromancy Flame in the backup slot next to the shield. And you see the spell now illuminates. We've had Fireball attuned from the beginning because we chose Pyromancer subclass. We need the Pyromancer's Flame to actually use Pyromancies. Doesn't matter what they are. So now that it's equipped, it's not grayed out anymore. And I can cast Fireball, but I want to dodge his arrow first. So casting Fireball is the left bumper, the same as it would be if I had a shield and I wanted to block. And you see that I just one-shot that thing by quite a bit. Pitiful range on the Fireball, though. But really good early game damage. Pretty cool, considering this is the only character that starts at SL1, Soul Level 1, rather. Wow, this has been a 34-minute episode. I'm going to go ahead and say this is good enough for the intro to this series. Again, I hope that I follow through and this series actually gets off the ground and hits some of your ears at some point. I fucking love this game, so I'm hoping I have the motivation to carry on with it. Like I just mentioned, I am working again. I just started a new full-time gig, and I'm not going to have a ton of time to work on this, so it's probably going to be a lot of me recording in my nights and weekends, like when I'm off work. I want to, build up a massive backlog of these videos so that I can upload them consistently if I ever do upload them. so you probably won't see these for a long time from the moment of recording, but I really hope that you've enjoyed this first episode. I know it's very slow. There's a lot to talk about in this game, and goddamn, is it a complicated game for new players. Everything is just kind of overwhelming, and the menus and everything, how things work. So I know we didn't really make any real progress, barely, but it was important information. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, whatever this series is called. And I'll see you guys in part 2.